We're called to session. Welcome to the April 4th, 2024 Bicycle Advisory Committee meeting. We'll start with roll call. Susan Heffley, here. Kim Austin. Here. Daniel Krim.
Here.
Stella Hollander. Here. Pam Meyer.
I'm here.
Matthew Mitchell.
Here.
Valerie Pyatt.
Here.
Staff. Martin Ince.
Here.
Jeff Bauman. Not here. Ryan Curley.
Here.
Adam Williams. No. Sam Beckett is here with the public or something. Adam Shimoni is here. And that's all I'm seeing right now. Oh, and you're here, and Councilor McCarthy is here. What's your name again?
Chris Fair. Yep. PHAIR.
With a P, like Susan. Okay.
And Kevin Hayes is here.
Kevin Hayes is also here. Welcome one and all. Who on the BAC wants to start off with any comments? Kim, do you have any updates on Bike to Work Week?
Oh, it's month.
Well, I'm sorry, it's
It's
a
ingrained.
verbal habit.
I know. I know the kickoff ride is on the 1st. I know that Bike to School Day is on the 8th. And the Kiddical Mass side on the west side is on the 8th. That's start and stop at Sechrist Elementary. I know that Bike to Breakfast is on the 15th. And I know the Bike Bazaar is on the 19th.
All right.
I believe it's from 9 to 1. That's all I know right now.
Okay. And Martin, your bike will be ready to ride in those parades, right? With that wheel I built you last month?
2024.
24, yes. All right. Any other comments from the board?
Hey, I would like to say, since we got Sam Beckett in attendance, I thought the cinders were handled good this year. I mean, it's a challenging thing to keep those cinders off the bike routes. And it's challenging even enough to keep a sweeper machine running solidly day after day. So, yeah, I just want to thank Sam Beckett while he's in the meeting. That
Nice.
I think he did a good job doing the cinders.
Sam, what is your title again? Sam
Yeah,
Beckett?
good afternoon, everyone. Sam Beckett. I serve as the city streets director. So just in attendance today, no formal item on here, but I'll pass that on, Matt. I appreciate that.
Can I get one for Sam too?
Absolutely.
If you're standing at the northwest corner of Aspen and Humphreys, and you go to push the button to walk across Humphreys, the arrow doesn't point this way, it points to the ground.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
All right, I'll let the crew know. Thank
That's
you.
just for you.
Which one, Humphreys and where? Aspen, right here over in front of the city hall here. Okay.
It's an underpass. You didn't know that?
Probably,
That's April Fools.
well, I think it's a test for the underpass that goes under Milton down by Target.
Just waiting to move to the right place. Well, Sam, since you're here, I have a comment or a question actually as well.
We want him to come back.
Yeah, well, so I know since you are so severely understaffed and overworked, is there any way for like a volunteer group of people to help with some of the tasks? Like, you know, I've been asking for a reflective stripe down the Futz Trail that parallels 180. Is there a way that we could just have one member from your team and then a bunch of volunteers to help something like that get done?
Yeah, that kind of thing, since it wouldn't be directly related to a street or a highway, wouldn't be done by streets anyway. It could be something you could propose to parks, but I believe that stretch is ADOT along 180 there. So I don't know who actually has the formal maintenance agreement on that, but realistically, I don't see the concern with it. It's not a traffic related item, so it wouldn't fall under any sort of regulation that I know of. I think if you got a volunteer group and you want to give a heads up to the city and maybe ADOT, I would say go do it. But obviously there might be a couple other people to talk to on that. But anytime we can get volunteers to support us, we're all for it. We're working with the Downtown Business Alliance right now on that exact effort for a volunteer cleanup effort here in the next couple of weeks. So.
Yeah, I know I'd be happy to join with something like that, and I suspect I could find other people that would also be interested if it was one of their passion projects, so. Can you give me a name of who else would be likely to contact for something like that?
I would reach out to Amy Hagan and just start there and see who's got the maintenance agreement. And then as long as you get the okay from them, then it doesn't, ruffle any of their feathers. I don't think it would.
Okay.
But I would just confirm with her first and see who's got that for sure.
All right, well, thanks a lot.
This, and, just for, the record, the city, that is the city's, we have a maintenance agreement with ADOT. Like ADOT doesn't maintain pathways, so.
Okay.
So Amy would be the right person.
It's Amy Hagan.
Hagin.
Okay,
She's in charge of what, Parks and Rec, right?
Yes, she's, like an assistant director.
okay. So she's with the city. All right, any other board comments?
I was
All
just gonna make a comment. I recently found
Daniel.
out. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Just-
recently found out that our city code and the NAU regulations are not exactly in alignment, and in some places, like, kind of opposite. With regard to like the city code like defines e-bikes class 1, 2, and 3, and the NAU code says the definition of a bicycle is an electric bike or a human powered bike. It's all just considered a bicycle. And it's coming up in my context with regard to like, are they allowed to be on the sidewalk? Because if we remember from like, about, I don't know, a year ago or so, Martin, we were looking at, should class 1 be allowed to ride in the bike lane? Should class 2 be allowed to ride on the sidewalk? And we kind of took some votes on that, and I see that it's been codified. And I had occasion today to look at the NAU regulations, and I think for good reason, because you have those bike paths that lead directly onto the sidewalk, and then you have like bike paths ending and sidewalk starting, that there are it's just interesting to me that those are not matching, and like a student can ride their bicycle like 0.1 miles and be then governed by a different kind of opposite set of rules, especially with regard to e-bikes.
so were you saying the NAU, the e-bikes are illegal on the NAU paths?
No, I'm actually
not-
saying,
Go ahead.
I was saying that from what I'm reading, you're pretty much allowed to ride your bike on campus, and in this case it's an e-bike, wherever you want. And then as soon as you get off campus, there's these different rules that are like, okay, you can no longer be on the sidewalk, or and in some instances, like I had it open and I don't have it open anymore, but yeah, I was just going to speak about it generally, because it's nothing that like that we need to delve into in detail right now, but just an observation that the regulations for NAU are quite different from the city.
Sam, did you know more about that then?
Yeah, we've
Oh,
been
sorry.
discussing them or revising them in the NAU Transportation Action Team with Aaron Stam. And I think, Martin, you were at least one of those meetings, if I recall.
It was.
but I can't remember if if NAU actually finalized the new version or not. And if I'm remembering right, Martin, please correct me if I'm wrong, some of what they were changing had to also do with new state law for like gas powered bikes. There was some other change, or for scooters or something else, that prompted additional changes beyond what that group had discussed. But now I can't remember exactly where we are in the process. I thought they weren't fully finalized yet, but maybe I missed something.
Well, that would certainly be a good thing to bring together the differences and try and see if there can be some coordination between those two sets of rules.
We'll say NAU doesn't distinguish between e-bike and bike, it's just a bicycle, which I can agree with. Except for, yeah, when it's a gas powered, a moped, there was a lot of discussion on what, yeah, a personal mobility device compared to, or no, or what did moped stand for? Motorized pedestrians.
Pedal bike.
There's a lot of discussion on that, where they're only allowed in the street.
Okay.
I will say, in the past have worked with NAUPD and
Yeah,
to educate their students that, yes, because NAUPD in the past has wanted bikers and pedestrians using their pathways, their bikeways and pathways. But when they leave campus, that they need to be on the roadway, and there's a difference. And so I don't know how their education, but they do have, or they have had a community officer trying to explain that. But they don't have a dedicated, bicycle, officer or anything like that. So yeah, it's definitely something that is an issue, a difference.
Are they, we probably should agendize this item if we want to get too much into it, but maybe a start would be if we have a copy of either the final rules for NAU or what's in draft form, and then we can compare to the city's rules and see where it matches and where it diverges.
I bet you Sam could get a hold of those pretty quickly.
In the chat.
she already did.
Yeah, sorry, I already did. And I'm wrong.
Okay.
It looks like they did finalize it in January of this year. But I recall there being a lot of discussion around this point, and to what Kim said, NAUPD definitely was involved.
Well, could you get a set of the rules, Sam, to Martin?
I think she just did.
Oh, you just did. And then Martin, you can send them to all of us and then we'll put it on for discussion next month.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say now is that I know that now Aaron Stam and that group are trying to revise the existing like bicycle safety brochure that NAU has. So on the education front, that's like on the docket right now.
Is there somebody that you think would want to attend our discussion from NAU?
Maybe Aaron Stam? Probably.
Can you get his contact information to Martin as well?
Her and yeah.
And I will confirm that those are the regulations that I was looking at earlier today.
Okay.
I mean, is this something the city wants to explore again? I know that was a tough conversation like 2 years ago.
It was a long, was it only 2 years? It felt like 10 years ago, but it went on for 10 years.
Well, it was 10 years and yeah, it went on for 9.5 years. Yes, it was.
The decision was made while I've been on council.
Yeah, it was, I bet it was 5 years ago.
Is it pre-COVID?
Yes.
Yeah, we were still in that room.
The council came to a compromise. I didn't think we should have electric motorbikes on any foots trails, but I was outnumbered on council. So the compromise that was approved by everyone, including me, was that there be no electric motorbikes on the Arizona Trail and that round trail that goes through Buffalo Park, whatever the name of it is. but we would allow electric motorbikes on the rest of the foot trails. Now, as far as if sidewalks and roads, I don't remember the details on that.
We decided that e-bikes, class 1 and class 2 could go on our FUTS trails.
Yeah.
But not class 3, which can go up to 28 miles an hour.
Right.
And then the e-bikes are allowed in bike lanes and gas bikes are allowed in bike lanes, but that's about all. Gas bikes are only allowed on streets and bike lanes. They're not allowed on the FUTs at all.
And class 3 are not allowed on sidewalks.
Correct. I'm not sure if I think we probably, I don't remember whether class 1 and 2 are allowed on sidewalks where bicycles are allowed. That I don't know.
I think they are, yeah. I was just looking at it today. That's the only reason I know that.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, you're our legal man, Daniel. We'll put you right on this.
Happy to help.
Great. Okay, so that will be put on a discussion for future reference. And so do we have any more board comments, questions? Any public comments or questions? Adam, go ahead.
Hey, thank you. Hey, everybody. Great discussion so far. And I just had a quick public comment for the group. I also want to echo just the praise to Sam and his team for the winter maintenance and the cinders. It's not perfect, right? But it's darn good. And I feel like it's a lot better than it has been in the past from my perspective. So I just want to say thank you. And, I think FBO would really be open and interested in potentially partnering with the city, with the Parks and Rec through Amy, or whoever to help orchestrate some of these cleanups and efforts just to improve things for us all, right, who are riders. On the topic of Bike Month, I just wanted to double emphasize, Kim summed it up great. She knows the dates better than I do, but I just wanted to add that we're really trying to emphasize getting more people out and involved in our rides and our events. So anything you all can do to help spread the word and engage people and encourage people to join the fun and all the action would be much appreciated. I also wanted just to add that on Earth Day, the city's putting on a big event, as they always do, at Bushmaster, and there's going to be a official city ride from the visitor center downtown, like where they put the winter ice rink up at the Amtrak parking area, from there to Bushmaster. So come join us. I'll be there with my boombox. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And then I had a comment I think this is probably for Martin and also for the BAC, but I wonder what it would take to get the 66 foot path patched up in that one asphalt section just as you're leaving downtown heading eastbound. It's pretty bad, and it's been bad for a long time. I'm sure we can all relate to this. And I think it's dangerous, especially if we have traffic. So I know that's probably another Amy Hagan thing in Parks and Rec, but I wonder if we can pull that off in this upcoming cycle of maintenance efforts and whatnot in construction. And that's all. Thank you so much and have a great meeting.
Thank you, Adam.
Just FYI on the last one, that section is going to be replaced as part of the Lone Tree Overpass. Which at least part of it was.
Okay. When does that happen, do you think?
I think we have an update on it later, but I think it's supposed to start this year.
Okay. I do still wonder, Martin, because it's like a segment of what 20 yards, right? With like a few key gaps, like what it would take to just patch those few key spots just in the short term, because it's like every time I ride it, which is almost daily now, it's highly sus, right? And I know if there's other traffic coming, I'm gonna bust a wheel and mess up my stuff cruising pretty fast with some of those potholes, right? Anyways, yeah, let me know what you think.
So you're not talking about the part that kind of sweeps down below behind the shrubberies?
Exactly. And it's like asphalt for that segment. Yeah, next time you ride it, you'll see if you want to if you're on a road bike like I am, you're gonna try to avoid it at all costs, and it funnels you into very small areas of that path. and it's a little dangerous, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, the worst part I've noticed, just because it's shady, the ice hangs out there a lot longer.
Right, of course.
Okay. Any other public comments, concerns, questions?
Thank you to Adam for reminding me that I'm actually helping with the ride on Earth Day.
What's the
That's
date?
right.
Yeah, thank you, Adam, for reminding me. It is the 20th, the Saturday, the 20th,
Ah, 420.
this month. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
what you were talking
hey,
about.
420.
So there'll be a booth, a little smoking booth.
Wow. That's hilarious. I'm sorry.
Because it's not transvestite awareness date overlapping with Easter.
That's like a
It's funny. Okay.
young generations,
Okay.
too old now.
I don't know. I don't know when it started.
All right. Martin's been busy this month. We have some minutes to approve of. September 14th, January 11th, which were nicely brief, and February 1st. Do I hear a move to approve of the minutes? Anyone? Okay, I'll move to approve the minutes. Can I get a second?
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, they are approved unanimously. And now we are on to old business. Martin, bike waste plan, go ahead. Where's what you got? While you're looking, I'm gonna make one more comment. The group that was gonna get together to look at resumes is now it's Matt, Sam, and Valerie. Do you have a meeting scheduled? Do you have a chair? Do you want to try and solidify anything to get it moved ahead?
We should, and I'm flexible for whatever works for Sam.
Sam or Valerie, do you want to schedule a meeting or choose a leader or do any of that forward thinking stuff?
Yeah, I can help schedule a meeting.
Okay, you guys all have your contact information and or
I
do you
think
want
so.
need to, well, you all have your each
Well,
emails.
Chris will reach out,
Okay,
to the three.
to
Which is,
those three,
Matt.
Matt, Sam, and Valerie. So have the resumes ready.
We were thinking of the week of the 22nd, April 22nd.
Earth Week. Okay,
Can we have the list of names to include one more time?
Sam Meyer,
Mhm.
Matt Mitchell, and Valerie Pyatt.
Excellent, thank you.
Very good. Okay, now you're ready.
Is it okay back there? Or would you rather have it here? Either way.
I think flip it, Martin.
Yeah, that way you can see it. Share.
Without dislocating my neck.
Right.
It's good. Once he did.
Oh, does it do it when I do that?
Again.
Decisive.
I couldn't see it changing. Okay. This is an item for potential bike waste plan for the city. And this is actually something that we worked on a couple of years ago and got pretty far along with. We literally have a draft document for it. And over the years, we've had discussions about a number of components. for it. So I think for some of you, a lot of this may sound familiar. But what I wanted to do for this meeting is just kind of resurrect that process and think about how we might move that forward. There's a significant part of our thinking on bikeways that's been included in both the active transportation master plan and the regional plan. And in fact, the map that shows the classes of bikeways is included in the regional plan. There's a map that shows future facilities also included in the regional plan. Although honestly, it's at the scale that it's printed, it's really hard to read like details of what's actually where. So there would be some, and it includes some general descriptions of things as well, but I think there would be some benefit to having something that's more detailed, including descriptions of all of the bikeway facilities that we've talked about over the years. So again, what I thought we might do for this meeting is just kind of resurrect that plan, take a look at it, and then think about what the process might be for moving forward. And I've got a lot of slides in here that talk about some of the facilities. And again, this might be, depending on your perspective, a repeat of things that we've talked about before, or a refresher of things that we've talked about before and just haven't thought about for a while, or it may be brand new to you if you've totally forgotten it. If your memory doesn't go that far back, then this will all seem brand new. I guess that kind of covers the first slide. I think the other thing that we could look at is a Foots master plan, which I think would kind of follow the same premise, that we have a lot of the basics already in the active transportation master plan and the regional plan, but there'd be some benefit to having additional detail in a standalone document. So again, just for this afternoon, we can talk about a little bit about the process. I'll go through the outline. And again, I think you'll recognize some of the things that we've already talked about. And then I've got a bunch of images of facilities that we can look at. And I know we've had a lot of discussion about crossings, in particular, how well RFBs, rapid flashing beacons, and pedestrian hydrant beacons work for bikes or don't work for bikes, as the case may be. And there's a couple other crossing types. And I think at one time, and we had a discussion previously, we had thought about maybe looking into more detail at different crossing types for bikes to see if there was a better way to plan for these things, including retrofitting the ones that we have. So any questions, comments so far? All right, moving on. So I think the process can be pretty simple. As I mentioned, we have probably 75, 80% of a draft. We really should get internal review on that before we go too much further to make sure other departments have had a chance to see it and weigh in on it. That includes our legal team. They always are happy when they get a chance to look at documents before we get too far along. Then I think we need to have some version of public outreach. I just included a couple of the things that we always do, but if we have other ideas, we can talk about that. And I think when I think about some of the different types of facilities that we're planning on using and in some of the projects that we have coming up, these things are going to be built. But I wonder, and we've reached out to the public before and asked their thoughts about some of these things, but I wonder if you guys feel like there's any benefit to just making sure we're on solid ground with this, because I do get a sense sometimes that there's a discrepancy between the members of the community who are hardcore bicyclists and those who are kind of more novices or getting started. And really, kind of that division is how comfortable people are in traffic. Because not everybody, I think some of the hardcore cyclists may not be as happy with the separating bike lanes, for example. And so I don't know, I don't presuppose an answer here, but I wonder if there's a benefit to reaching out to that group in particular and just making sure that we as a cycling community are all kind of on the same page in how these work. I mean, I think we're familiar with what the trade-off is, but if we provide separated bike lanes, they're much more comfortable for most cyclists, but they're some sacrifice of directness of travel for hardcore cyclists, some disadvantages to being off the street. And I wonder if you guys feel like we've worked through that enough, or there's more room for community engagement on that topic.
Yeah, it seems like Bike to Work Week would be, or month, could be a good forum for, I don't know, some maybe informal discussions or Bike to Beer informal discussions, or I don't know, what.
I think we need to plan for the, was it 60% or whatever, the people who aren't comfortable.
Yeah.
Because the people who are gonna ride anywhere, I mean, then they can ride anywhere. But I think if you're not providing an option for the people who want, maybe are, what is it, the curious and whatever.
Curious, but intimidated.
Then you're not giving them any option. And also, yeah, it just. There.
Yeah, I agree with Estella. When I talk to people just generally about riding bikes in Flagstaff, the number one concern I hear is about safety. So
I think we have enough surveys to say so as well. Like pretty much every survey is saying we want more facilities for bicycles. I don't think there's one that says no. Like,
No, we have specific surveys that asked about separated facilities. There was pretty strong support for them generally, and that echoes nationwide things. I mean, that's not an anomaly in Flagstaff for whatever reason. I guess maybe I'll ask a different way. Have we reached out enough to the 1% or 7% or whatever the
Elite.
yet, just to make sure that they're on board? I don't know, maybe the
I have to say, I mean, when I watch. I feel pain. Well, I do, so like, when we plan, when we were working on the whole circle roundabouts on Butler, and there's basically no on-road option. There's no bike lanes. Those elitists, for lack of a better word, are definitely
Experienced,
the experienced 7%.
hardcore, right?
Yeah, the upper 10% are gonna go ahead and do it, but they will be disappointed that there's not even a bike lane they can take over. And I kind of wish we could have that for them, but if it's down between giving them their bike lane and then having a good solid option for the 60%, we do need to, always go for the 60% because they're the ones we're trying to lure on the road. And we're not gonna get them there with bike lanes.
Armstrong does not live in Flagstaff.
But Austin has a good program, I believe.
Okay. So we're.
Does that not answer you the way you didn't think?
No.
weren't
I
gonna
mean, I get pushback. We talk about some of these facilities, so I just want to kind of protect us against.
and I think we need to know, like, because yeah, oftentimes with the protected intersections, sure, maybe it's 2-stage left, but it's also because we're often prioritizing cars still by putting all these left turn movements. And so, yeah, then it does take a lot longer. So I think that's the other side of the coin is we're still not fully prioritizing cars in these designs. So it's, it just makes it that much harder for a cyclist.
You mean we are prioritizing cars?
You said you're.
Yeah.
But we're not fully prioritizing bikes, I guess. Yeah. Sorry, I missed that.
That's for sure. Well, I guess if the elite 10% are really unhappy, they'll let us know.
Martin, are you feeling that maybe you should have a table or something like at the bike bazaar and just something like that kind of reaching out, or what do you?
Is that the 1% they usually show up for that event?
I don't know, aren't they, I don't know, I mean, probably not,
15%.
but I don't know, what were you thinking? Have thoughts?
No, not.
Are you looking
not
at me or him?
Not really, not beyond what we've talked about. I just want to, and maybe maybe we're well past it. I just want to make sure that, that everything we've done is kind of defensible in terms of our outreach to all segments of the community, including the segment of 1% and 7%, who we exclusively planned for bike facilities for many years. That like everybody acknowledges what our intent is, what the trade-off is, and that's what, as a community, that's what we're moving forward with.
Daniel and Kevin. have their
Yeah, I
hands
just
up.
have it. All right, Kevin, your hand was up first. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I also just wanted to say, when you guys are working on those roundabouts, don't you think you're going to add those sharrows in there to show the vehicles that bikes can use that lane and then they don't need their own lane? You know, those sharrow markers, those
Yeah.
ones that,
Were those slated to be in the the roundabouts?
Yeah, I think that was part of the discussion. Yeah, they
Okay.
can't be placed there.
Yeah.
cool,
And
thanks.
we still don't know whether we're getting a double or a single roundabout, right?
Yeah, but either way, with those sharrows in there, those aggressive bikers can take that lane and go. I mean,
Yeah.
and there are some that will be happy to do that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a design detail about, since there are no bike lanes off street and if we provide a ramp, we're sending people kind of into traffic with the ramp. So that still needs to be worked out. But people who would want to use the shared lane markings in the roundabout, or to take the lane in the roundabout.
Okay, Daniel, want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask Martin, you said that your question is our public outreach to the 1 to 7%, has it been sufficient? Is that the underlying question? Or is it that the 60% who would ride if they felt safe, are we sufficiently reaching out to them? Or are you just, I was just trying to clarify where we were in the conversation. I kind of lost track a little bit.
Sounds like Martin had a nightmare one night.
It might be it, yeah. None of it was real.
Bunch of angry lycra wearing people came at you.
Then Daniel, I feel like we have good feedback, the results of several surveys, and are fairly comfortable with our engagement with the 60%.
Okay.
So I think there's good support for having separated facilities. So the question was, was really the first of the two scenarios that you brought up, have we sufficiently kind of made peace with the 1% and 7%, and the trade-offs to make biking more appealing to the 60%, and the slight lack of convenience for or directness for people who are used to riding in the street.
And that's for a number of different projects that we're planning that are going to happen between now and 3 years from now.
Yes. And I think it's probably worth mentioning, you know, this kind of facility is kind of front and center because we have a couple of projects where they're going to be included, from the Lone Tree Overpass to the Butler on the east side that we talked about to the Butler conversion are all going to do that. But the reality is, like, we're never going to be able to convert a majority of our bike lanes to separated facilities. And on-street things are still going to be kind of predominant. I mean, these things will help. You put them in key locations, have some great facilities for people, but they're a small percentage of the overall network. So if we are either appealing to the 60%, or making it less inconveniencing the 1%, it's not for the whole system anyway.
Well, and we've had these conversations before as a group, just kind of generally, of who are we here for and who are we trying to really serve with a lot of our our feedback that we're giving the board. And I think overall, it has been that 60% that this group is kind of saying, we need more cyclists. We need more people who maybe would ride to work or would ride to the grocery store if it was safer. And I think if you feel like we have their feedback, then yeah. And I agree. I mean, we have done a number of surveys and we have gotten good feedback from those people, and that gives me confidence.
Okay.
Adam, you had a question, comment?
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate this conversation. And Martin, I hear you, and I hear some of those 1%er comments from people quite a bit. And so I think I know where you're coming from. And I just wanted to share with everyone my opinions or thoughts on what I'm hearing about, which is twofold. Yes, the pilot lanes are too thin, right? It's not comfortable, especially heading down Beaver. So, Butler, we have a long-term solution that's coming soon. Beaver, I think I mentioned this at the last BAC meeting. I think we really need to start thinking about a plan that's a long-term plan, because it's just too steep, it's too fast, and it's too thin. And that's feedback we've also heard from other towns who said that it's too thin. Not even considering the hill, right? So that's one component, I think, of a lot of the feedback I'm hearing. And then the other piece was specifically around some of these larger projects and all the different stages a cyclist or pedestrian would have to take just to cross over the intersection, and it's specific to intersections. So I think kind of Estella was speaking to that too, about how the city is still prioritizing cars and LOS, which then requires us to build these monster intersections, which then when you make it a protected monster intersection is extremely inconvenient and not efficient for bikes or pedestrians, but yet we're safer. So luckily, unfortunately, and gratefully, the city has been building smaller intersections, even when the first design that they present are much larger. But like, for example, University in Beulah is an overbuilt 2-lane roundabout that I think is going to be extremely problematic for pedestrians and cyclists to navigate. But other than that one, I think for the most part, the rest of the projects I think are going to be fairly efficient to get through. So that's what I'm hearing, and I think as long as we hold the city accountable to not overbuilding for the car and levels of service, that I think we're okay. We need to come up, like I said, with a long-term plan for Beaver. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, I think as long as we put something in there that says, yes, you're still allowed to take the lane. That would, hey, did you read the part where you're still allowed to take the lane?
On Beaver?
On all of them. Like, we're not stopping people from, moving into the street and riding with the cars.
No, just the
We're-
Chevy trucks are.
Well, the Chevy trucks are, yeah, but a lot of these intersections, the traffic is slowing down, and the bike can move into the lane and can get through the intersection with the cars.
Probably wouldn't hurt to put a couple share the road signs up. Oh, thank you, Daniel.
Okay, we'll move on to unless there are any more thoughts on community engagement or public outreach. Okay, I've got a couple of slides just to go through the outline we have so far. Introduction talks about the benefits of having a bikeways plan. And let me see, okay, it's coming up. And then the second part is the intent of the plan, which I've recreated here. We don't have to go through it in details. Basically, it's just to give us something that we're planning for. Second part talks about a low stress network. So it's based on a separation principle, which works that on low volume, low speed streets, often like residential streets, for example, the volumes are low enough that it's comfortable for most cyclists to ride in the street with vehicles. As the speed and volume increase, the level of separation needs to increase as well, to the point where most of our arterials really need separated facilities for people to feel comfortable. Types of cyclists, is what we've been talking about. The bicyclist preference section is where we highlight both the national surveys and our local surveys that show support for the separation principle. And then the last little bit is network planning. And it just talks about some things like things being continuous, convenient, intuitive for wayfinding, connecting destination, things like that. So it really functions as a network. 3, I know that we've reviewed this in the past, the hierarchy of bikeways and what it means in terms of prioritizing improvements, designing and wayfinding, and maintenance, as well as closures and detours and things like that. So we'll have a primary system which is the kind of the highest level and the one we want to protect. And you've seen this map before. This is actually the map that's in the regional plan that shows purple as the primary or first level, orange is second, and then blue is the third. Chapter 4 talks about different kinds of facilities. And it's divided into things along the street that are linear, and then intersections and crossings. And then I referenced this map. This is the map from the regional plans. This one, you can get the general idea, but it gets a little bit hard to read. We also had this as an online map, kind of interactive, so you can zoom in and click on things and see. But I think some of the data has gotten out of date. It may not function like it's supposed to, but we'll fix that. So then, like in the middle, where it's really hard to tell what's going on, you can zoom in and actually get detailed information. Chapter 5 is about facility selection, and you may recall reviewing this table where we plot the volume on the up, down, left axis, and then across the top is speed. And down, I think we've had discussions since maybe this one was done, so don't put too much stock into what this actually tells us. Maybe not be the final answer. But again, you can see at low speeds and low volumes, shared streets, but as you get higher volumes and higher speeds, things go to bike lanes, buffered bike lanes, and then finally to fully separated facilities. Hang on to this thought for a moment. We'll come back to it in just a moment. Chapter 6 is about implementation. So it talks about how we prioritize different opportunities for implementing bikeways. Existing and future streets, the difference here generally is that on existing streets, we're often constrained by right-of-way and other things. So the ideal facility may not be what we have planned. Retrofitting existing streets is also very expensive. We can do it in a few cases like Butler, but generally not everywhere. So we try to be opportunistic and see what's the highest level facility that we can manage or fit, but it may not be the ideal facility. For future streets, it's different because we're starting with these are greenfield. We're starting with a blank slate. So when we build new roads and new areas, we should get the ideal facility. And I think for those future streets is where this table is probably more relevant. So we know some roads are planned in the regional plan, but there are also other roads that serve collector functions that aren't necessarily planned. So as areas develop, like the area south of town, for example, or west of Fort Tuthill, we need some guidance on what are appropriate bicycle facilities. I'll give you an example. When the hospital was being planned, they were adding some new roads that weren't necessarily on the regional plan, and so they weren't on this map. And so to determine what level of bike facility is appropriate, we need to provide some definitive guidance. This table is what would do it. And we really didn't have that, so we didn't have much of of a way to require them to build, for example, buffered bike lanes. Like I think some of the roads, there was sufficient traffic and the speeds were such that we, at a minimum, we ought to have buffered bike lanes, but without some regulatory guidance, we really can't do that. So that's where the difference between existing and future streets becomes important, and then this guidance that we provide becomes important. Having it in a plan is probably not sufficient. I think it needs to become part of the engineering standards, so it becomes clear, but getting it in a plan is a good first step. Some other things under implementation, we talk about interim facilities and transition, so we may.
Daniel's got a question.
Oh, thank you.
Daniel, what's your question?
You're muted, Dan.
Daniel?
Of course
You
I'm
are.
on, of course I am.
Okay, we hear you now.
Where is that table coming from? You might have said it already, but yes.
This one,
Where do we get it from?
when we talked about it previously, we started with two other sources. One comes from federal highways and the other comes from NACDO.
Okay.
Isn't
Yeah.
this revision that we imposed on it? I think we shifted things around a little bit.
We did. I honestly don't remember if this reflects that or not,
Okay.
but yeah, we talked about it a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Like Butler, is that 12,000 cars or like where, just in relation to Flagstaff? Like,
Butler is around, I want to make sure I get this right, is more than, is like 25 or 26,000 cars per day.
Is that now or in the planned future?
Both.
Is that the same?
No, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not sure how much it grows, but it's over 25,000 now.
There's a lot of new things going on over there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was my question. I thought it did have some scientific backing, and sounds like it does.
Yeah, we started with those two sources of national guidance, FHWA and NACDO.
So what about, so Butler, Milton, Route 66 would all be in the top category of that chart?
No?
Yeah, it doesn't take too long to get into the top category by volume,
Yeah,
and then it really depends on the speeds.
so that second category down, would that be 4th Street? Sorry. You don't have to, we can figure it out later. I was just,
Yeah, but 4th Street is more than 12,000.
so 4th would be, well, I'm curious which of our streets would land in those two middle categories.
What do you think? Maybe Lone Tree south of Pine Knoll could fit that category.
Would be like 7 to 12.
Down Wesley Powell.
Yeah. Typical residential street is maybe up to 1,000. A street like Fremont or Fox Glen is maybe 2,500. Kind of at the lower end. For years, kind of the common thought with bike lanes and volume was around 3,000. People really start to appreciate bike lanes. I think it's probably lower than that, like probably around 2,000 or 2,400. That when you get to that volume, bike lanes are a noticeable improvement on the street, independent of speed.
By any chance, on like your ArcGIS map, can you separate the roads that we see there by their traffic, their traffic or their speed?
On this one?
Yeah. Well, that interactive arc map.
Oh, could we put like speed and volume that
Yeah.
information on there? We could, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what pops up. See which of our facilities are scheduled for buffered or separated or whatever. Or fit in that category.
Yeah, it sounds like all of our purple, the main artillery is probably in that top category.
Yeah, I think that's always a dilemma because roads that are busy because they serve a valuable function to the community for getting around. And it's that same function of getting around that bicyclists need. So, and we don't have like a ton of alternative routes or other options. So we end up, like I think we talked about it before with Butler, there's not a good alternative south of the tracks going east-west other than Butler. So cars find it useful. So do bikes, but then it makes it a busy road.
Just a quick comment. I used to do most of my bicycle riding when I lived in Phoenix and Tempe. Well, down there you have a grid of every mile, these major streets. I never rode those streets because they have half mile streets. And the half mile streets were great for bicycles. But this city, the way it's laid out, it does not lend itself to that. So it's kind of frustrating. And so when I first moved up here, I found bicycling very different than what I experienced in the Phoenix, Tempe, Mesa areas.
Well, and when you ride around in places that have water, creeks and rivers always get the right of way. So if you put your paths next to them, they get the right of way as well. And it'd be neat if around here, the only thing that has the right of way is the railroads, and they don't like to share the road with bicyclists. But it'd be neat if we could.
Till they've been gone for 50 years. And you could build a path on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you look at like in Phoenix, where they have a strong grid, or Minneapolis, which I'm familiar with which has a strong grid, like often the bikeways are on, just as you say, on the half section line roads, not on the mile spacing roads. Those are fairly busy streets. They just kind of like give those over to cars in a way, and would put exceptional facilities in the half mile. And then you can still build a nice grid for bikes based on that. The trick kind of becomes when the half mile streets cross the section line roads and the mile streets. You need to provide better crossings.
A lot of those had stoplights.
Yeah.
And they had stoplights and they had very little volume compared to the mile grid streets. So I found bicycle riding in the Phoenix area to be very straightforward and easy. I would go
heat.
I would do really long bike rides and never felt threatened.
Well, the canal system usually had trails. It has pretty good trails.
Who does?
The canal systems in
Oh, the
Phoenix
canals,
have
yeah.
nice trails, except for they're covered in goat heads.
That's why we have thick inner tubes.
That is something that we should think about, is our foot system is the thing that kind of separates you entirely from the roadway network in terms of, you're not competing with cars, and sometimes the foots can be a shorter route than going by vehicle. So I think that has always been part of our network, and we should think of it that way. Foots aren't always paved and aren't always, year-round facilities, but do we think of it differently? Do we think of them as year-round in some cases? And maybe that's a level of improvement that we make. But even the ones that are unpaved, I think they're great for commuting, at least in the summer. I think the Karen Cooper Trail, for example, is a good one. Okay. Good discussion. Thank you. We'll keep on. So the last things on implementation is we can talk about what we need in the way of engineering standards or design guidance, and then finally maintenance, because I think all of these have implications for maintenance, and it's best that we engage Parks and Public Works and at least talk about the maintenance ahead of time as part of planning. And then the last one is wayfinding. Really comes down to two components. We've devised a system of names and numbers that kind of let you know what the hierarchy is and help with wayfinding. And then we've talked before about the need for signage to really kind of pull the whole system together and make it. I don't know if that makes it intuitive, if you have to provide signing along it, or if that just helps, like that answers that dilemma. The last thing is the appendices, and here we get into a little bit more detail. A description of linear facilities, a description of intersections and crossings, a summary of where the primary bikeways at least are, and then references is the last thing. And so from that, we'll talk a little bit about the linear facilities and intersections and crossings. Linear facilities are divided into 3 categories. Places where bicyclists, and again, this is based on the separation principle, the places where bicyclists share streets, facilities that are on street but dedicated. These are essentially bike lanes, like you have your own place in the street, but you're in the street with cars, and then finally fully separated. And I'm gonna go through these fairly quickly because I think, oh, why my computer does that.
Pickups.
Yeah, it happened last time too. Sorry about that. Do you mind? Maybe I'll try to pull up the original PowerPoint. Do you want to, is that all right? This feels intolerable. And I was just looking at it.
It's not that bad, but if it's triggering epileptic seizures, we definitely wanna.
Does the next page do the same thing?
I've been doing that the whole time.
Yeah,
Is it?
blinking.
Oh, it's gone. Oops.
Quick.
That is difficult. How long would it take to pull up the PowerPoint?
We'll try it now. This, I got I had issues with my laptop from the city, and so I got a new laptop. Well, new to me.
A 2003 Dell.
It's re-
Right, which, I mean, the damage is cosmetic, or maybe not, I don't know. Maybe when this thing was dropped.
That time you flung it against the wall and then ran over it.
Probably shortly after one of these meetings.
So Kim, are you going to the conference, bike summit?
Tomorrow?
Yeah,
No,
anybody here?
we have a new associate transit planner that's going, Lorena.
She's representing Flagstaff, let her know.
We might stream it.
I know that's going.
We might stream it
Yeah.
because there's a student, he gets $5 to stream it. But the student rate is $5. And so Aubrey or Ty might sign in and we might watch it at work.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Adam's going.
Yes.
I'm on my way right now.
Driving and talking on the
Is
phone?
it Mesa?
It's a long ride.
Yeah, and FBO, I'm gonna be streaming it through FBO for the most part, and I got permission to do that. So if people want to tune in that way too, a little hack.
Fun.
Okay, this feels better.
Okay.
We'll make a note of that for next time. Don't use PDFs. So this kind of goes through all the different kinds of facilities that we might potentially use and have planned as part of the network. And it's ordered in kind of that hierarchy of shared, dedicated, separated. So bike routes are really just, we put signs up along residential streets, and they're not really a facility, but they kind of direct people, what are the best routes through a neighborhood, or what will lead to other parts of the network. And I mean, what I would call out in these two images is the complete lack of cars that are visible. So these are generally residential streets. There might be a car down here, yeah. And also these are clearly 60% cyclists and or children. Bike Boulevard, we've talked about these before. I'm pretty familiar with the concept. Essentially, they're like bike routes, but we take extra steps to prioritize bicycle movement over vehicle movement. Like in this one, for example, they built a bump out and prohibited cars from entering one way. So that those are often features of bike boulevards where cars are diverted from the main routes, but bikes are allowed to pass through. Generally, as long as it doesn't inconvenience vehicles too much, neighborhoods really like them because they provide traffic calming and cut down on the volume of vehicles going through a neighborhood. I will say that they work best where you have grids, where you can kind of find streets that are local streets, but go for longer distances to make nice routes. But I think we have a couple opportunities in
So
Flagstaff.
one on the right, does it say except bicycles do not enter?
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't read it from here.
Yeah, they don't accept bicycles.
Shared lane markings we know about. Generally, there's a version of shared lane markings where you have a shared lane marking on one side of the street and then a full bike lane on the other. We've used it in a few places where we don't have room for bike lanes on both sides. It works especially well on hills where you have a uphill bike lane and a downhill shared lane marking. Like I go home, for example, on Sparrow. And when I go eastbound on Sparrow, it's a really long hill. And there's a shared lane marking on the downhill side, but a bike lane on the uphill side. Even if there was a bike lane, it would be difficult to keep in the bike lane at the speed you can achieve on a bike, just coasting, going down that hill. So sometimes that works out pretty well. Bus bike lane, fewer options in Flagstaff for that, but we can keep it as as a potential. Advisory bike lanes, have we talked about these before?
I don't think so.
We have, and I think that the consensus was that's crazy. There's no yellow stripe in the middle to tell the cars which side to stay on, and it basically becomes like a single lane for cars in the middle, except they're just not supposed to hit each other, and they're supposed to move into the bike lane when they're more than one car is there.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks crazy to me. I've never seen it.
Where
Yeah.
do they have these?
Uh,
I think it was Santa Fe, right? Isn't that what you were saying was on Santa Fe at a stretch? But I don't know that I saw it on Santa Fe because I drive there all the time. And
you mean Santa Fe in Flagstaff?
in Flagstaff, yeah, but Santa Fe has a yellow stripe down the middle.
Yeah. No, those aren't advisory. Those are like full width lanes and bike lanes.
I think we talked about these when we were doing the road diet.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. Like, I think it's definitely in like a neighborhood type setting. I think it keeps cars maybe a little bit more alert to their surroundings. And I don't know.
Well,
There's not
clearly,
major bike traffic either.
yeah, well, it wouldn't work on a high road traffic, car
Mhm,
traffic
right.
place, but yeah. if it
I
was-
think that's the secret. Yeah. It can't be too high.
But
Speeds can't be too high either.
yeah,
I
but
would
in
be,
I remember the picture that you had when we were talking about the road diet was like it was a business area that was low traffic, which I don't know how you arrive at that. I mean, residential streets kind of end up being like this without any paint on them. So I'm not sure where they would work out.
I think
Dying business stones.
we have them planned on Edgewood over in the Country Club neighborhood, which is a fairly wide street, but it's also residential. I don't know when they'll get painted, but
Is there a parking prohibition on Edgewood? Because this doesn't look like it would allow for vehicles to park.
I mean, it depends on the width. I think Edgewood might be wide enough to have, there are versions of this. that have
Parking and then bike lanes and then the advisory bike travel lane.
Right. I think that might be Edgewood's case. I think some streets downtown might be, candidates as well. You going next door?
Yeah.
Can you text us if the snacks are good?
There better be snacks.
Yeah. If you're like, come over here now.
We're going fast.
Too many of these 1%ers over there.
Canapes are almost gone. Next on. Okay, so that's the shared group, where you're, sharing space with vehicles. The next one is dedicated. So bike lanes and buffered bike lanes. Both versions of dedicated. Our plans call for converting a lot of bike lanes to buffered bike lanes. Again, it's not, it won't make everybody perfectly happy. It's not a perfect solution, but it's an improvement, I think. I'm kind of curious to see how people respond to them once we have some in place. And I think the version on Butler is not quite buffered. It's really just a double stripe. I mean, that's only 18 inches total, really, between the two stripes.
That much?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because stripes are
kind of
6
feels like-
inches. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
surprising, isn't it?
So the blank
Yeah,
spots.
doesn't feel
between the
like it,
two,
yeah.
Yeah, it feels narrower than that, like a. But I still like.
Had a slide. So that's dedicated. Then we get into separated. We count two types of separation. One is vertical, where you have some kind of physical vertical element. Here it's a much heftier looking Jersey barrier. And then here it's a poured curb in the right image.
Oh, you would totally drive city maintenance nuts with those.
This one's a little wider. That one, yes.
Yes, but look, those slots are still gonna get choked with crap. Plus, most of our busy streets that we're trying to solve the problems for don't have the kind of space that you could put this on,
Correct.
unless we take out parking.
And I think, like, if we just isolated where we have separated vertical bike lanes on our plan, I think, I'm not sure that there are any places where we have it. Except as maybe, a future subject to grant funding. Our option was the horizontal, where you move the bike lane kind of off the road. Our version has it kind of more like this, where it's next to the sidewalk. This is like a pure bike lane separated from the street. Cycle track. Only difference is that cycle tracks have two-way traffic. So it's kind of like a foot straddle, but like literally in the street. And there's some version of protection along one side. The challenge with these is that, like if you're going this way on this side of the street, your destination is over here, it's harder to get there. There are also challenges with driveways with this kind of design. Because one half of the cycle track is not going with traffic. So if there's vehicles pulling out, that may be unexpected.
But if you had a frontage road, like say Solier, it would be perfect.
It could be, yes,
Yeah.
exactly, right. Yeah, like on the north side of Solier, there's no driveways, it's an interstate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and Solier might have the space to put something like
yeah.
this in where most of our streets don't.
yeah, I think that the space that the version of protection takes up would be the challenge. Even like, this is kind of a fancy looking Jersey barrier, but they take up a certain amount of width. And then, like we talked about before, don't discount foot trails. These are two examples that are long streets, but they don't necessarily have to be long streets. In fact, people like them a lot when they're not along streets. And then the last one is divided foot trail. The left image, of course, is on campus, NAU. This shows kind of how it works. You got two-way bike traffic and then pedestrian traffic. It's separate. If you go next door to the Lone Tree overpass, we're actually building this on the overpass itself on the west side, all the way down to O'Leary.
Are they using separate material like concrete versus pavers? So it really defines the two lanes?
All concrete, but I think you can do like a groove here. This doesn't really have markings, but I guess up here it does. Further up, you can see they have kind of pavement markings. I'm not sure. We'll have to look to see. Maybe we'll go over and ask them if, like, you could do two colors of concrete, for example.
Yeah, I think all it would take is the colors, but
Yeah.
those fade, but yeah. I think that's why NAU's pedways work so well with that much volume of traffic is because the different materials, like asphalt on one side versus pavers on the other side.
Yeah, or the new section they have, the concrete part for bikes is more of a dark gray.
Yeah.
So there's a color difference between the two. And then we can fade into intersections and crossings. So here our categories are enhanced, beacon crossings, separated, grade separated, and signalized. And we'll go through these. Enhanced are generally things that are painted on the ground. So cross bike markings. These images are a little bit older. I think this green version is kind of like what a lot of places use now. There were a bunch of different experimental things on how cross bike markings would be used, but I think even in METCD, these green markings, cross bike markings are simply like some indication of the continuation of the bike lane through an intersection. So we have this is a crosswalk, this is a cross bike. Bike box, we looked at these before, understand them. I think they work best if you have like a bike lane that leads up to it. And then from here forward, it might be a shared lane situation like we have on San Francisco, for example. So bikes can platoon and kind of, take the lane as a group. I think the other purpose of bike boxes is if you're staged here, a vehicle either waits for you or turns right behind you. So it reduces right turn conflicts.
So what would it take to get this system where the bikes go to the front of the line all the time at a stoplights, and then get to go first? What does that require to get that to
I
happen?
don't think you can do both. Either you can, well, we have like a bike signal and a lead bike interval, but I think that assumes that you have your own lane, basically.
Okay,
But glancing at this, the way this could have been structured, it's telling me as a bicyclist, I can straddle up in front of traffic and position myself in the center of the box.
Yeah.
Where our boxes that we have in town are just boxes and I don't feel like I can
they're on the
pass,
side, they're
I
not
can
in
get in
front
front
of
of
them.
cars.
Yeah, that-
3D.
Yeah, those are a different thing, which we'll
Yeah.
get to.
Okay.
So does that answer your question, Susan? If like 5 bikes platoon in that green box, when the light changes, they
In
all,
front of the wait here. So if you were sitting in the
Yeah.
wait here zone,
yeah, the way here is for cars.
yeah.
The green is for bikes.
But the green in front of the wait here, those people are gonna be the left turners, I presume, in this scenario.
Right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, this red car is gonna turn left,
yeah.
then people here are gonna turn left.
And the bikes, if they're in front of the wait here, they're gonna turn left. I would presume. They're not-
Yeah.
And if they're gonna go straight, they're gonna go here.
Right.
So yeah, how come we can't have those?
We do. No, we don't.
We can, we're planning.
Yeah, well, good. So, but there's not like city ordinances, there's not something that says you can't do that in Flagstaff.
No, it'd be interesting to check if they were included in the last version of METCD. I don't remember, in the latest version,
Yeah,
which came out last fall.
Huh.
that would be legitimacy if they were included.
You know, as a bicyclist, I wouldn't feel very comfortable pulling out in front of those cars like that. I would probably negotiate that intersection in a different way, even if it was marked that way.
I actually totally disagree with that. That's how I'd prefer to negotiate that intersection because I'd know a car sees me, especially if you're switching from having a lane to not having a lane anymore, your own bike lane to not having a lane anymore.
Yeah.
I'd rather be in front.
No, I'd love to have all the bikes and peds clear the thing before the cars can run over them.
Right.
I always think of going northbound on San Francisco when you get to Route 66. Oftentimes there's a handful of vehicles queued, waiting for the light to change,
Mhm.
and a handful of bikes. And the bikes are scattered all over the place. If you get there first, you're at the front of the line. Otherwise, you might be between cars. Some people don't want to do that, and they're on the sidewalk or off to the side. And I feel like something like this would give all the bikes that get there permission to group at the front of the line. And when the light changes, they go north on San Francisco through downtown as a group. And as a group, maybe all of them are more comfortable taking the lane versus having individual bike riders kind of scattered around. And our expectation is that they stay off the sidewalk and take the lane, even though they're not all together.
Especially since you go from no parking, cross, on-street parking. So then everyone has to sort of, you know what I mean? Yes.
Some people, like I notice a lot of people are not confident enough to take the lane, and so they try to get as close to the right-hand side as possible. But of course, that puts them in the door zone of all the parked cars. It also encourages the vehicles who are still in that lane to pass unsafely because there's not nearly enough room for that to happen. So they think they're being probably more considerate of cars by letting the cars go past. And they're not quite confident enough to take that lane, but what they don't realize is they're putting themselves in two versions of jeopardy.
Education.
It's better to take the lane.
Ben, don't worry.
Or green paint.
We don't need education. We'll just use more green paint.
I've seen these bike boxes in Portland when I went there once, and it's interesting. Like all these bikes come up this green path, and then they fill this green box, and then the light changes, and then they all go, and then they just all filter to the right and get back into the bike lane.
Yeah, that's interesting, but I think like in that context, the purpose of the bike box is to eliminate right hook collision. So no bike is in danger of getting right hooked by a car.
And they also get a comfortable left turn without having to keep checking.
Yeah, I've ridden these in DC in that scenario, and they're usually fine. It just like adds visibility for the cyclists to get through an intersection more safely. And I think it makes cars not take turns or just go through an intersection as quickly.
In Vermont, they didn't have all the green paint, but they had at every intersection, there were all these series of lines and cross hatching that said, this is a crossing zone for bikes and peds. Go slow.
Let's.
Another city where their streets are all really narrow and they don't have many places to widen or throw alternate things.
Green bike lanes in this context is in conflict zones at intersections. So you see, for example, this one is where cars would merge across the bike lane to get into a dedicated right turn lane. So the green provides more visibility. Two-stage left turn boxes, which are probably not intuitive, need some instruction on how they're to be used, but this is kind of the painted version of a protected intersection in that you make that left turn in 2 stages rather than trying to make it as a vehicle. This really, you're sharing the street with vehicles in this case, rather than having a protected path around the intersection, like a protected intersection. However, these boxes are out of the path of travel, so if you're staging in them or using them to turn, like you're not in the vehicle lane. Like there's no danger of getting hit that way. And we understand how these work generally, this group.
Yeah.
These are the ones we have, right, Martin?
Yes.
Can I ask a question? Are people actually using them this way? Because I've never seen anyone actually use them to take a left turn at the intersections where we have them.
I haven't either.
Yes, we don't have to like work through it tonight, but how can we change that? I mean, part of it is education for sure. I think it's just when you see those things, it's just not intuitive how they're supposed to work.
And you have to wait for 2 cycles of light to get to where you want to go, rather than taking that left turning lane and, being able to go in just 1 cycle.
Sam, I tend to agree. I don't think people are using them.
But this is a tool for the 60%,
Yes, it's a tool for the 60%. Yeah.
1%ers.
Yep. If you're a 1%er, you can still make a left turn as a vehicle.
Yeah,
If you're not precluded from doing that.
that's how we got to incentivize the 60%ers to.
You're assuming the 60%ers will know how to use this.
That's what I would say. I would say the 1%ers don't know how to use them. So I don't know.
So that leaves nobody who knows how to use them.
Again,
I
I
used
just
them
have to say,
twice.
I've never seen anyone use them at all. And I ride through those 2 intersections pretty much every day.
Do you use them?
No, I do a vehicle lane.
This is your opportunity to be an influencer.
Okay, I'll try.
I don't use them to make a left turn, but when I'm going straight through the intersection, I put myself in the box. In hopes of my person behind me, if they got to do a right turn, I get over to the left and I give them enough room. But most automobiles won't even take the chance once they see me in front of them.
I agree. I do that, especially by like the REI Whole Foods at that intersection. I'll get out in front so that cars can make a right turn. It's much safer.
Okay. Another version where we're kind of constrained for space is a shared lane marking right turn lane. So here you can see there's no bike lane that continues through the intersection, but bikes are allowed to take a portion of that right turn lane. I think this situation shows it, but I would be more comfortable using these where there's a bike lane on the far side of the intersection. So you can, as a bike, you can use this. You're sharing it with right turn vehicles, and then you can enter the bike lane on the far side of the intersection. If there wasn't a bike lane, you would have to merge into traffic basically by the time you got to the far side. That doesn't seem particularly comfortable to me. We do have this situation in a number of places where when you get to the intersection, 1 lane becomes 2 lanes, a through lane and a right turn lane. And as a result, the bike lane gets dropped. One solution.
64th Street,
Is that the case?
isn't it?
No, I think all
Does the
those.
bike lane
all
go
those bike
through?
lanes continue, yeah. 4th Street they do.
No, on 66
Oh, right, yeah.
by whatever the new Chick-fil-A or whatever that place is.
Yeah, that's an ADOT thing, so they drop for a different
They-
reason, but
okay.
yeah. Okay, other comment.
25 minutes if we want to stick to our 6:30 standard.
So beacon crossings, rapid flashing beacons and pedestrian hybrid beacons. They're originally intended for pedestrians, so they don't always work great for bikes. There are a couple of innovations that are intended specifically for bikes. We've looked at toucans before, yes. And then a bike hawk. Both a toucan and the bike hawk, I think, assume that you've got relatively low volumes on the side street. So this is like we would have a bike boulevard or a bike route, for example. When you get to a major street, this is how you would cross as a bike or a pedestrian. And the same with a bike hawk. Really, that just is kind of a pedestrian crossing, but it includes push buttons and space for bikes to go across. And because it's on one side of the road, again, we assume low volume because a bike would need to get all the way over to the far side and then back over to the right side, getting up to and leaving the intersection. Any questions about those? I think we have opportunities to use some of these things at different places as crossings that serve both pedestrians and bikes. We know about protected intersections, protected roundabouts are similar. Both of these images, by the way, were from, I think one was from South Africa and one was from England. And so I merely mirrored the image and then made the bikes go the right way. Otherwise, the original image, they're going the wrong way because people in those countries drive on the wrong side of the road.
Job. Works. Works.
Grade separated bridges and tunnels are great, but expensive. And then here we were talking about, there is a standard for bicycle signal heads. And this gives you the ability to have a lead bicycle interval. So the bike signal, which is like a little green shaped bike, or in this case, a little red shaped bike, and turn green before the main roadway to give bikes a head start. And the same with walk signals. The walk signal and the bike signal can come on at the same time and give them a head start.
You know, that green signal would be a better application on 66 and Ponderosa instead of the light that lights up saying no right turn because of a train.
Yeah.
If it had a bicycle, then the motors trying to turn right, sneak through there, would be aware that they should still be looking for bicycles. You know, right now, they don't.
And I presume that light can be programmed to have both the bicycle or just a plain green light.
This looks dangerous to me, because I mean, like in a foggy condition or something, a person might see green and it's like, well, that's only for bicycles. And they won't know it's just for bicycles. They'll think it's for cars.
It's bicycle shaped, or if
Well,
you're thinking they have bad eyesight
I
or
mean,
something.
like, for instance, the pedestrian signal has very different geometry than the car signal. But here, the bicycle signal and the car signal look almost the same.
I've ridden through these in Vancouver, British Columbia. They have a lot of these, and it's quite frequently foggy and rainy there. That's basically the whole weather pattern. I don't really recall there being any issue because they're in a completely different location as to where cars would be looking. You know, they're in at like a different height for cyclists. I think in my experience, it's pretty clear that they're not intended for cars.
So this one on the picture, I'm way in the back of the room. What are those two lights on the pole, on the vertical pole? What are they saying? Is one, maybe I should walk up and look at it closer.
Well, it looks like they have a sign under there, under those two lights on the right hand, on the left hand picture. They have an explanation, it looks like, on how the signals are working. But so is that signal that has the bicycle on it?
So right here, it has a bicycle signal above it.
And it's red, right? Like saying no
Right,
bikes.
right.
You gotta
No
caution,
bicycle
right
over
turn.
Because the cars are,
Yeah.
wait a minute, this says bicycle too.
Bicycle lane.
Bicycle signal, what does that say?
That's it. I think that says bike lane. Okay,
Well, all I'm saying is before we start using something like that, we need to look at it real carefully.
Yeah,
I think there are a lot
there's,
of examples of how they've been used well, and to effect, so I don't see that being a problem.
yeah, they are in METCD and typically they study things fairly thoroughly in METCD. It might be interesting to get some of those to see what they actually, like the studies that went into the adoption.
METCD means,
Manual on uniform traffic control devices.
oh. So I'm missing my bedside copy.
MUTCD.
MUTCD. So that's all I have for the bike planning stuff.
Okay. All right. Do you want to pick a few topics that you want to look at for the concluding general business? Do you have a priority that you want to consider?
Yeah, we have a lot.
Yes, you do.
We'll go quickly through these. Metro Plan submitted an application for Safe Streets for All planning grant. We have all kinds of ideas about what we could plan with that grant. Engineering standards revisions were read, the ordinance was read for the first time by council on Tuesday. 2 weeks from tonight, they'll do the second read, and the ordinance will be adopted. We're already beginning work on the next round of revisions. If you remember, we did the easiest ones, we saved some of the more difficult ones. So now we're planning on how to do the more difficult ones.
The easy ones mean the rolled curbs. That was easy.
That one got
That
pushed to
was-
more difficult.
Yeah, I was like, ooh.
Yeah. First mile, last mile, we're reviewing 60% plans. Butler Avenue Complete Streets, we're working with Federal Highways on finalizing a grant agreement for that. We also submitted our comments on the concept plan that we looked at. I gave you a sneak preview of it last time. So when the final version comes out, I'll share that with you. You can see kind of the 15% concept for Butler Avenue, basically.
What about the West Route 66 one?
That's planning process being led by Metro Plan. I think they're looking at options for how West Route 66 would get rebuilt. Do you know anything about that, like timing wise? There's going to be public outreach. Well,
There will be public outreach.
yeah,
If you could ask me when, I don't know.
okay,
I think Andy is still
be on that.
and working on stakeholders and stuff.
Schweitzer Canyon Foots, we got bids from 2 contractors. We're still working through that. What that means, it'll likely be more expensive than we thought it was going to be.
Isn't everything? Sorry.
Yes. Why we didn't anticipate that is a different question. But hopefully if we can work through these bids and make it all work, it will get constructed this summer.
Inflation kills it more. Good.
Which would be exciting, yeah. I think Fremont Boulevard, we talked about that last time. Any updates on that, Kim?
Yeah, the art is in. BPAC will vote on Monday. And then then whatever concepts the BPAC approves will go out for community vote. That should open up next week. I'm thinking Tuesday.
So can we look at the art?
Oh, yeah, you're good. We want everyone to vote.
Okay.
Want everyone to vote. And you can sign up to volunteer at the same time, provided the links work. Just saying. Yeah,
So where do we go to?
Flagstaff Community Forum. We'll put it out on social media. It'll be on our webpage. If you live in the neighborhood of Cheshire, you'll get a mailer. There's all sorts of ways it's gonna be out there. Chris got to see the options. You can say
Susan,
nanny,
got
nanny, nanny.
I did see them, yeah.
Some nice quality stuff.
Good,
They are good. They're three very good options.
great.
Yep. Traffic control plans were also approved for
Yay!
the project. There's gonna be a full road closure on a section of Fremont Boulevard for 3 days.
3 days.
May 16, 17, and 18.
You betcha. Yep.
At the end of those 3 days, can we vote to, should we just do this full time?
Close it, just close the street.
Front past the neighborhood.
Right. See how happy they were with 3 days of closure.
So for some of these other projects, Chris has assembled some more detail about them, which we can include. So this was taken from the presentation to council for their retreat last week. So it has project scope, the budget, and then the schedule. So again, here's our Schweitzer Canyon Trail. Spring of 24, construction summer of 24, and being finished by late 24. Fremont. And we have the same information for a bunch of transportation projects, Butler Fourth. And we wanted to include this primarily to give you an idea of what the schedule is. 'Cause I think we haven't, I don't have a good idea of that always. And so here we have it collected in one place. Butler Fourth, Lone Tree Overpass, Downtown Mile, John Wesley Powell Extension, Beulah University, which is under construction substantially now.
Impacts to Milton Monday, right, or something?
Yeah, I think it's coming up quickly. Or is that the In-N-Out Burger opening?
That's Friday.
That's Friday.
Oh,
Take your pick.
like tomorrow?
I don't know. I guess
Tomorrow,
we'll see.
Friday?
I suppose we'll see.
We have one every week.
Lock and Cedar Roundabout.
An In-N-Out opening?
So we'll just keep this on here. We don't have to necessarily go through them, but I just wanted to, if anything changes, we'll try to keep this up to date about the construction schedule, so you know.
We got so much construction going on
Boy,
in the near
Butler,
future.
Butler's going through a makeover.
My advice to all of you would be to get a bike. Oh, wait,
That's what
you're way ahead of me.
I've got some spares. Like 65 in my backyard right now.
65.
Well, Elson wanted to clean out the shop and he wanted to throw away bikes that I didn't want to see thrown away. And
You open that can of worms.
I opened that can of worms and Adam's gonna give me some more.
That's
Aren't you-
right. We're gonna
Right.
double your stash pretty quick.
Oh,
It's your neighbor's backyard.
they're not using it. Just their dogs.
All right, the last thing is we interviewed a handful of people for the multimodal transportation planner. And we're considering those candidates and hopefully we'll make an offer in the next couple of weeks.
Congratulations.
How many positions are you gonna have? So
It'll be
these two are part of.
Chris, the new person, and myself.
I'm not, no, I'm not at that level of greatness.
I wouldn't go that.
Yes, absolutely. No, I work for Metro Plan and they work for City of Flagstaff.
Handicap.
I thought you guys were part of Metro Plan, Metropolitan. Okay.
No, we'll put that, we'll agendize that. The Federal Transportation Planning Entities and Organization.
So what is,
For the next,
so what is the planner gonna do different from you two then?
well, I think, there'll be three of us to divide work up. And I think we'll try to get them involved in like some of these projects and development review and other capital projects and at that level of detail. like helping move those projects forward.
Okay,
And making sure we have, good bike ped representation. That's our thought.
Answering inquiries from the 1%.
Exclusively. I like it, Daniel.
All right. Is that it? Are you done with your list as you see it? All right, so the backpack appointments and reappointments, Chris is gonna organize you guys and send you all the information you need. I'd like to get those resumes too, just to see if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think that should be fine. Yeah, everyone can, who's involved can
Okay.
expect to see an email about it tomorrow with some proposed dates. Are we thinking that after 5 o'clock on a weekday would be what's best for everybody, or is there some flexibility there?
After
Chairman
5 p.m.,
Bell?
please. I'm not very flexible. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Absolutely okay.
All right, well, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting at 6:21. And let everybody go enjoy the beautiful weather and get their bikes prepped for the Bike to Work month.
Good job, Susan.
And trainable.
Next thing it'll be if I to work here.
Yeah. Why are you saying that like it's not a good thing?
That's because I'm kidding. No, I think it's great.
Yeah,
Maybe we should have an international bicycle year, like the old international geophysical year. Remember that?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but I remember
What
the
they do.
name.
Yeah, what they do. I remember national, international.
It was about going to space.
Ah, yes, well. The best adventure is right within your own village.
So, and the other thing I understand, if we get a fourth multimodal planner, that they'll be in charge of river rafting.
Just have to make sure multimodal is defined that way.
Yeah.
We're good.
But we have to find out how many people are commuting between Lee's Ferry and
You have to
Vegas.
realize that sometimes I have very serious statements. Sometimes I'm just bullshitting.
Keep that in mind.
All right.
All right, thanks all.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great and ever improving spring.
You guys do the same. Watch out for the wind. Don't let it knock you off your bike.
No kidding.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.